Where's your New York hat from?
Kith.
Kip. Nice.
Yeah, I love Kith.
Classic tourist destination.
Got to have Kith. Let's see. All right, all right, we're getting some people in here. Once we get enough people in, I'm gonna do like a little roll call, see where people are from, so they can.
What do you got going on behind you? Is that your whole sneaker collection?
Not everything. This was just for, just a little simple like aesthetic display. Actually, I need to trade in that Jordan 1. It's a little size too small. So I got an 11 instead of a 12. But no, I'm actually building up though. I'm building up my collection right now. Because there was you said what?
What are you at collection wise?
Well, I have more New Balances than Jordans now. So
growing up?
Yeah, I know, right? I love what they're doing with the collaborations, but collection wise, like a lot of my Jordans is just mostly OG colorways. I think the one that I kind of stepped out on, like was like I want to do more with, was the Fearless pack with the blue Blue the Artist, the mid Jordan 1. That was a really dope one for me. Like, it's really dope. I know your collection's crazy though. I saw what you just posted. I was like, oh my gosh.
It's so rough. I downsized from 400 pairs down to like I have 72 right now in the last year.
Bro, that's crazy.
Rough.
That's wild. Yeah, I'm not up there yet, but trust I'm coming. Like I'm just getting in that phase to where I'm really just buying what I like instead of just buying what's hype. So I'm really going after it. So we got people in here. Got somebody really cordial with the good evening. What's up, Michael? All right, so as we're getting more people in here, please tell us where you're from before we start. And I want to do a little roll call so we can shout you guys out. We got, okay, there we go. DC, we got Jersey.
Yes, Baltimore.
Got Harlem, New York, Baltimore, Chicago, LA. Dang, everybody going crazy. Kentucky, Brooklyn. Sheesh. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, Michigan. Okay. We got somebody from India, Toronto, Texas. There we go. South Florida.
Venezuela.
You said what, Venezuela?
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. We got Wisconsin. That's what's up. Keep them coming. We're going to show you guys some love. Okay. Money earning Mount Vernon, New York. Okay. Yo, that's what's up. Okay. We got Dominican Republic. That's love right there. Man, guys, look, thank you so much for just hopping in here today. Like, this is going to be a very, very good, webinar. It's just going to be amazing. We're just going to have really amazing talk. It's going to be super relevant to what's going on right now, what has been going on. Before I start, welcome. This is a Yellow Brick webinar, focused on the Yellow Brick sneaker account, Sneaker School. My name is Denis Boateng, and today's guest is Harrison Davis. And today's topic is going to be on sneaker boutique and community outreach. All right. So before we go into all of that, I'm just gonna talk a little bit about myself and then give it to Harrison to introduce himself furthermore. Like I said, my name is Denis Boateng. I'm a sneaker school grad. Graduated not too long ago. And it was one of those things where I was like, you know what? I've always been passionate about sneakers and I wanted to learn more. I was the guy amongst my friends who knew where to get the sneakers or, what release, what the name was, who the designer was. But there needed to be more for me to be able to kind of validate myself and to be able to navigate in the sneaker industry as well. So this was what I decided to do, and it's probably the best thing that I ever decided to do. My background's been in communications. I used to be, a radio producer slash co-host, started my own podcast, and, just creating content. Now I'm a graphic designer as well. So just, doing everything that I can to stay creative and, just reinventing myself in the sneaker industry as well. So that's a little bit about me. I'm going to pass it over to Harrison.
Absolutely. Well, welcome to Brooklyn. My name is Harrison Davis. I'm currently the private client advisor over at Stadium Goods. So that's a new division we just started to, white glove and up level the service people get in the streetwear, art, and sneaker community. This has long been a luxury segment in the industry, but it hasn't been treated as such. So we're starting to, raise up to the level that it needs to be. I owned a sneaker store in Baltimore called FRS For Rank Shoes for the last 6 years. I moved up to New York in January. I have a background in finance and accounting and a minor in tax law. So I come from the non-creative side of the business, but just always been in love with the art that is sneakers and the fact that you can wear it and travel with it and tell your story. From a block away, people know who you are based off of what you're wearing.
Yeah. Nah, dope. So guys, listen up. Before we get deep into this webinar focusing on the sneaker boutique and community outreach, just letting you know, if you do have any questions, please feel free to send your questions in the Q&A box, and definitely we will make time for you guys to answer your questions, whether that's towards me or Harrison, or we can both answer them. So don't be shy, ask your questions, and we will try to answer the questions the best way we know how. Also too, if you guys follow us on Instagram, we have links in our bios that you use to sign up for the Zoom webinar. You can also, when you make that decision, you decide to sign up for a sneaker school, you can also use that link and find your way to sign up for sneaker school. And look, it's gonna change your life pretty much. So, all right. So, all right. Today we're gonna really dive deep into some dope talk about things that both myself and Harrison are very passionate about. Harrison has been in the game for a very long time, and just had a sneaker boutique, so he has that experience. The network is probably crazy. And now he's at Stadium Goods, doing his thing. So this is going to be amazing. So we're going to touch on today just how we found the passion for sneakers, our first start in the sneaker community, and the community that we found, they embraced us. We're going to talk about the miseducation around the sneaker industry and kind of the myths around it. We're going to talk about building with the community. We're going to talk about how local means global now, especially where we are at with the pandemic and everything going on. And then we're going to talk about the renaissance of sneaker boutiques. So, I think we're going to go ahead and dive into the questions. Harrison, how did you get started? What do you remember? What was that sneaker or that moment that made you fall in love with sneakers?
So I really got into it when I went to college in Boston. I went to Northeastern. I lived 2 blocks away from Bodega. From those of you who don't know what Bodega is, Oliver created an incredible store. You walk into basically 7-Eleven where everything is, expired. No one talks to you. No one really looks at you. You have to walk up to the soda machine, and that actually opens, and that's your entryway into this hidden sneaker store. It's a whole, a dream world behind there. So that's when I really got interested in the actual industry. I didn't realize how long before that I had been collecting sneakers. So I played soccer my whole life at a very high level. You get into a rhythm of getting into a brand. So I'm Adidas for life because of soccer and the cleats that they used to make, and how premium leathers, and you start picking and choosing, do I want kangaroo? Do I want regular? Do I want the vapors? That's how I got into the technical side of sneakers. And then after I stopped playing sports and kind of connected with Bodega, then it became about fashion for me.
It's funny that you mentioning Bodega. my first exposure to it too. Like I always knew about it online, but where I lived at the time in the Midwest, we didn't have a bodega. You know, so I actually didn't get to really check out the space till I moved here in LA because we have one here in LA. And look,
Yeah, set up a sneaker
amazing.
market. So good.
Like all the vibes that you can get from streetwear to sneakers, it is amazing. And also too, you mentioning the thing about soccer, I think people sleep on soccer a lot. I'm a huge soccer fan. They actually have a lot of influence on the sneaker industry too. That people
100%.
sleep
Ever
on.
since Drake wore that pink Jeep jersey, I think everyone gets it in the industry.
Yeah,
They took a big
exactly. I think the moment for me was, I mean, like of course, East Bay magazines. If you guys remember, East Bay magazines were something for me where they were free, order them, and then I would circle the shoes that I was like, yo, I'm gonna cut some grass, I'm gonna save up some bread, and this is what I'm gonna get. But then the Allen Iverson commercials, the Reebok commercials with Jada Kiss and everything, I was like, yo, this is crazy. And of course, the Air Force One, which, shout out to New York and everything, but a lot of people will argue that Baltimore is what made the Air Force One famous.
We made it. We saved it. We revived it.
Exactly. Exactly. What is your personal grail? What are your favorite pieces to collect?
For me, I'm a big Adidas person. I'm big into the history of shoes. I don't collect on the hype very often just because it's so frequent and I am in the industry, so I'm around it so much. So I like to have kind of, those pieces that no one else has access to. Like my favorite piece of my collection is definitely this JS Wing 2.0. It's a red pattern. There's only 13 pairs of these in the world. So these were actually made for models during a Paris fashion show about 15 years ago. And so you had to find, people know samples are all made in 9s. So you had to find a model that actually wore your size. And then they got the gold grill on there that says Jeremy. Like, this is a one of a kind that like I definitely bring out. And then, like you saw on my Instagram this morning, I finally had a chance to get my first Hender schemes. And sad to say, this is also my first pair of Jordans ever. I'm 31-year-old, been in the sneaker game for 10 years. I've never owned a pair of Jordans, but this has been on my list for a long time. And Stadium Goods finally got the pair in my size and hooked it up. And
okay, so
I'm excited to go to Chicago in this shoe and open the Stadium Goods there next week. So I'm ready.
Harrison, I got to tell you something, man. I see what you did there. You brought out all the heat and then tell me that you was bringing heat to this webinar today. And now I'm over here sitting like, just like, I
debated sitting in my shoe closet, but I thought we would just like.
Yeah. Now it's all good. I'll get you next time. Well, we'll have to hop on live or something and we'll just, show each other our closet. But those are fire. So, and just seeing that, I mean, obviously you've been a type of person who hunts, like, and everything. So with you being exposed to bodega and then your love for soccer and building a collection without knowing because of the actual genuine love for sneakers, what was that moment or what happened that just kind of pushed you over into the sneaker industry where you were like, you know what, I'm going to start my own boutique or whatever your first start was?
Sure. So I had actually worked in like healthcare in finance side of it for 5 years up in Boston, making good money, but it didn't make me happy. I'm not a 9-to-5 office person. I needed to go out and be creative, but I wanted to be able to use my skills as well. So I relocated down to Baltimore just to try something new, really like just honestly be in a cheaper city. Boston's hella expensive. Now I'm back in New York, so I'm like feeling that again, but Baltimore gives you the opportunity to experience life and try new things because it is more affordable to live there. Mm-hmm. After living there for a couple months, I immediately realized that they weren't being given the same access as other major cities that are on the coast. Like it made no sense to me because I was used to shopping in New York and Miami and Atlanta and Philly and DC and have incredible sneaker stores. But Baltimore is all, DTLR and Shoe City, which are incredible local chains that have grown huge, but we had lost that kind of boutique feeling. There wasn't any independently owned account-based store. Yeah. So because I was tired of traveling down to Miami or back up to New York to go shopping, I was like, let me take my closet, see if I can turn it into a store. Let's see what happens. And it exploded. We were incredibly successful out the gate because the community was looking for something and needed something like that. And I really let the community kind of shape where we went with it. But
Yeah.
yeah, out of my need to be entertained and knowing that that city deserves the respect of the other cities that we're getting the releases and the independent stores we're getting.
Yeah, and you know, I think too, like, especially, you know, growing up, that was definitely something that we all experienced too. Just, you know, I mean, I lived in Indiana. You know, we
Right.
didn't have sneaker boutiques like that. You were going to the mall to Finish Line, or you were going to Foot Locker at the time. We didn't get a boutique till later. You know, a couple boutiques till later. So we were catching the bus to Chicago. You know, and if you were really like in the age where you were on Tumblr heavy or Nike Talk or whatever else, then you knew like, hey, you can go to Boston, you can go to New York, you can go all these other places. Or Flight Club was really heavy at the time too. So if you had the money, then maybe you could shop online. But if you didn't, it was just like, hey, you know, it is what it is. You might have to go to a shoe carnival. But nah, but that's amazing because you know you being able to just kind of like once again being on the hunt and knowing, hey, like I can look here, I can look there. You that just kind of ignited for you to just kind of be that change in your community in Baltimore, because you're like, yo, there's a void here. Um, so being able to build that and having that experience, right? What would you say the big do's and don'ts were, or that you've realized after you know on just doing all that?
I think like just business in general, a lot of people rush into it, and especially in Baltimore because it's such a hustler city. All of us had side hustles, even while I owned the store. And
Hmm.
the barrier to entry is so low because rent is low there. So everyone's like, oh, like I have an idea, let me start a business without actually fully thinking it through. I'm lucky because I have that financial background that I was
Yeah.
like, you know, I need a business plan. Like I always drill that into all my employees. Every one of my employees had goals of owning their own businesses as well. So I knew they would push mine forward while they were learning to own theirs. But it's just really like, you know, creating that future plan and then also just being honest with yourself and what you do and don't know. Like
Yeah.
I came up with my business plan and had got it fully funded, but I had never worked retail before. Like I'd worked in a couple of restaurants. And so I went and worked at a City Sports for 6 months, managing their shoe department so that I could figure out, you know, how does this work? Like how do you manage people in this environment? How do you make sales? How do you grow the business before I jump into on my own? There's certain
Yeah.
things that you shouldn't be learning while running your own business if you can get paid to learn them elsewhere.
Yeah.
That's a big misconception is like that you can't like everyone should receive some sort of training. College isn't for everyone, you know, vocational school. But if you have a passion and you want to follow something, if you're not willing to take 6 months to a year to be trained in it by people that built the industry, then you're not really willing to be a business owner just because of how much work it takes to actually own a business. And a lot of people also have the misconception that, you know, I have, like right now I have 10,000 followers. Does that mean I
Hmm.
can start a business? No. Like
Yeah.
those people shop once. That's not a rotating customer base.
That's
You know,
right.
so really just having that long-term plan and being willing to really grind it out and then understanding that you can't do it by yourself. Like I'm
Yeah.
fortunate I have a big support system around me.
Yeah.
I came from a background where I was able to save enough money to start my own business. But if you need to get loans and stuff like that, you have to write a business plan that proves why your business has potential, how it's different than something else in the market, who your customer is going to be. That census that everyone's asking you to fill out this year, that's
Hmm.
what makes the difference. That's where I did all my research. You know, I was like, these are the amount of people that live within 2 miles of where my store is going to be. It's going to be your main walking customer base. This is
Yeah.
the demographic. This is how much money they have. This is who's educated, who's not. This is who's within. Like this is how many bus routes are. Like all that information's on the census,
Yeah.
which is super important. People always forget that step. They're just like, oh well, I see rich people on the sidewalk. But that doesn't mean they live there. It doesn't mean they're going to shop with you. You know, you got to really
Facts.
prove that your business is worthwhile in that zone. And like I
Yeah.
knew I had a good plan, but like I have a 63-page business plan. That's
Mm.
how I knew I was going to be successful.
Yeah.
And I think another thing like on that a lot of people follow their business plan to the T. That's not necessarily the point. The point is that you give yourself benchmarks of like, where am I going to be 6 months in, a year in, 3 years in? And then you
Yeah.
can measure against where you thought you'd be and then where you've gone.
Yeah.
and see, like, am I making the impact I thought I was going to make? Did I change this part of the business and then I lost this customer base? How do I get that back? If you don't have something written out that you keep harking back to, then your business can't be successful, because you can't define what success is because you never wrote that down.
That's right.
I think people just get really caught up in the hype of like having all this energy and all this stuff. And that's a beautiful part of the business. But at the end of the day, like, you've got to have licenses, you got to pay taxes, you've got your employees to take care of, you have to know how much it's going to cost to grow the business. Like, when I started the store, we got 5 pairs of each shoe. By the time we closed, we're getting 25 of each shoe, knowing those incremental costs. You should know all that before you start, just so you get an idea of whether or not you should start.
And would you also say too, because that's one thing, like, I think sometimes, like, for people who, business minded, entrepreneurial minded and everything, who want to start a business, a lot of times we have that mindset, or starting off, that we want to do everything ourselves. And, then you come to a realization, or I've had that realization myself, that, man, like, why not go find someone who's really good at this, and then they'll be part of the team. Of course, it's someone that you can trust and everything, but you don't have to do everything yourself, right?
No, and there's people that, like, their dream is to be a part of your business. Like, I needed photographers, so I would hire kids that wanted to be photographer interns, and then they grew my social media for me. And so they're getting real life experience, and then they're getting paid and booked off of the shots that they're shooting. Like, I heard artistic directors, buyers, all these things under me. If you, as most artists don't, like, if you don't understand the finance side of things, take a quick 3-month course on finances so that you can at least check whoever you hire. Because if you can't check who you hire with your finances, they will run away with your whole business. But make sure, if you don't understand finances, that you have that really boring 9-to-5 guy on your team that can do it all for you, and make sure that the roll goes out on time, and that you aren't going to be sued by anyone, like all that kind of stuff. Like, it takes probably at least 7 people to fully run a small business. Now, you as the owner can take on 2 or 3 of those positions for sure in the first 2 or 3 years, and you should run yourself ragged. You have to be out in the community, and there's so much more, like, especially because I had a brick and mortar store and an online store. So those are different businesses that we were running simultaneously. And we ended up having like a whole omni-channel experience, which means like we had 11 different sales channels that funneled in through our sales portal. Then we also had in-store, and you could shop on like Instagram, and everything was all connected. It takes a lot of time and preparation to plan those things. You can't just sell. So that, again, then goes back kind of the business plan aspect of life.
And those are some great points that you make, because I think we're living in times where everybody, of course, success is at like literally at a fingertips reach, right? But nobody has a plan. Like like you said,
to get there.
Exactly, because the thing is, like, yes, it's great to have influence, but if you don't know how to market or use that influence in the right way, it's just a recipe for disaster.
And I found that a lot in the last 5 years, especially. Like, I started my business in 2013, so the landscape was a little bit different. Like, the internet has gone crazy, especially social media since then. But a lot of people, that kind of is their goal, to become an influencer. Like, an influencer isn't a business model. You can be an influencer in your field, but you still have to have a field. You have to have a product. You have to have a brand. And like, that was actually part of my business plan. And my staff will tell you, like, the first 2 years, it was written into my business plan that I had to go to events 4 nights a week, because that's how I was going to build the brand, my personal brand, and then the brand of my store, which are 2 separate things as well. Because like, your store should rely on you, but it has a separate living, breathing entity, to itself, and the different kind of perspectives to the customer. But I made sure like 4 nights a week I was at events, whether that was, hosting a table somewhere or showing up to someone's gig, and like making sure that while you're doing that and building community, that you pay for tickets to those things. People remember that, whether it's $10, $5, whatever it is, don't take the freebies from other people in the community for the first 2 years, because if you're not financially supporting them, they will not financially support you, and they'll remember that forever.
That's facts. That's big facts, you know, and I think just for the relevancy of that is like we saw what was going on throughout the whole pandemic and riots and everything. Like, you know, in my opinion was like, man, like certain shops supported the community, they gave back. So people were protecting those businesses and compared to other shops who may not have been, you know, supporting people around. So it was just a different story. But you know, I want you to kind of unpack a little bit on that community too, because I like what you said with being out 4 nights a week, like letting your face be seen and people understanding your values and your goals and what you were trying to accomplish. Like, what would you say a challenge was, you know, with like pretty much like, hey, building with the community, but then also them like kind of just like loving you back?
You know, it was a mixed bag of people trusting me or not. Baltimore is, while it's a big city, it's a small city. It's very segregated. It's very segmented. And a lot of people are born and raised and will die in Baltimore. You know, so when you come in from the outside, you're like a shiny object, and they love that and they want to support it. But it's one of those cities where you ask where you went to school, everyone says their high school. Like, and if you didn't go to high school there, like you're not part of that crew, right?
Yeah.
And so you have to, while they're interested by you, you have to like show them that you can be trusted as well. And then like, well, I'm not ignorant. Like I was a white dude with pink hair in the middle of Baltimore City trying to open a sneaker shop. Like that visually is jarring. And you have to like let people know that you're okay with the community should be okay with you. You share the same values. You all have the same goals. That took a solid year or two. But I think just having good principles and sticking to them about like the type of people I hired, why we hired them, everything that grew in the community. I was telling you earlier, like we had a big part of my platform is because I had that business education, and something that's severely lacking in Baltimore is even the motivation to finish high school, just because of the way we hustle in that city. And like kids will know at 8 or 9 years old that they're not going to finish high school because the streets are for them, or they're going to go produce music, or they're going to sell t-shirts out of the back of a car. Like it's very local that way, you know. And so the push to get that actual mentality and business know-how to then like actually turn your hustle into something that's profitable isn't there, and it's not being handed down because just the opportunities haven't been there before. So we had helped for free over 400 local designers finish their business plan. That's the biggest part, is just writing it down and understanding where you sit and where you are. And you and I had this conversation last week, like Marc Jacobs doesn't design for Marc Jacobs anymore. You know, like your name and who you are and what you do are all very different things. So like you might want to be a brand or a store owner, but like, are you the face of that brand? Are you the designer? Are you the salesperson? Are you the marketer? Are you the Instagram person? Like those are all different jobs. So once you can kind of write down your plans and your goals, then you figure out where you actually fit in the industry.
That's
and
right.
If you should go work for someone else, or because a lot of people are like, oh, I don't like being managed, so I want to work for myself. But most likely, if that's your attitude, you are going to be terrible at managing other people.
Exactly.
You can't own a business if that's, you know, where you're going to go.
Gotta crawl before you walk.
100%. But yeah, so we helped those 400 designers with their business plans, got them through. Over the 6 years, we featured 75 of them in store. I think 30 of them, it was their first product launches ever, which is amazing. And I know 11 of them right now are full-time hitting off their brands, which is incredible. So it was a big part. Like I went to leave a legacy in that community where people were going to, you know, get experience and knowledge that would, a lot of people in cities that are a little more downtrodden like Baltimore, because you lack opportunities there, they want knowledge so that they can leave. I wanted to leave knowledge so that they could stay and make it better, you know?
Yeah, that's right.
So make that
okay. Bars. Bars. Bars, man. That's really, really heavy, man, because I mean, you know, I kind of grew up like that, where it was just like, man, this isn't in my community, so I want to go out somewhere else so I can either learn to bring it back, like the whole Sankofa effect, or I just wanted to just get out because I felt like, look, I want more. I want to be exposed to more. And even you know, from an education standpoint too, because I love what you said regarding to people having that hustler mentality, which is beautiful. But once you connect it with some education, information, and experience, man, that's it.
Take
You know,
over. You know,
that's it.
that's how you get like Jay-Z. Like, he got connected to the right education with that mentality. And so you
Yeah,
need to connect more people from the community with the correct education.
yeah,
And then also not steal from your own community when
exactly.
giving back. Like, a give back has to be truly altruistic. Like, I benefited off the back of the people that I gave to, because then they wanted to work with me and they wanted to sell through my store. I
Yeah,
didn't take from them in the beginning. I got them to a point where they could help my business. And I think that's what people miss a lot. A lot of people think giving people an opportunity is allowing them to intern for you and never like getting anything out of it, just
yeah.
watching.
And, and you know what, too? Another thing that just popped in my mind with you talking about what you talked about with, you know, the information and then the people that you helped out and people who are making a living of their own brands is just that make yourself marketable. It's okay if you don't know everything. You know, I guess I would ask too if you could touch a little bit on that. Because I think a lot of times people don't know where to look for the information, or just don't have that thing where it's just like, look, I'm going to ask questions everywhere. So if somebody wanted to intern at a boutique or wanted to get experience or wanted to learn more about the different, you know, ways to kind of get their foot in the door, what would you recommend?
I would recommend, like in today's market especially,
Mm-hmm.
have physical proof like on your phone that you tried.
Yeah.
Like if you want to be a photographer, I don't care how trash your photography is, but show me that you took 100 pictures of something. Like show me that you already put the effort in. Thinking about it is definitely step one, but just because the world moves so quickly now,
Yep.
you want to make sure someone is really interested in what they're saying. So if you don't have proof that you've tried before, then it's hard for someone to dedicate their time to you. But also frequent that business.
Yeah.
A big mistake that a lot of people made is they walked into my store and like the first time that they met my staff or myself, like they asked for something. And not that there's anything wrong with that, because that's how you learn, that's how you meet people, that's how you network.
Mm-hmm.
But usually people go about it like, oh, your store's so hype, like blah, 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 like I love the collection. And I'm like, oh, like what is your favorite piece? They don't know what's on the wall because they haven't actually been there before, and they beeline to asking for help. And just respect the space that you're in and take time to learn about it. I
Yeah.
guarantee they have an about us section on their internet page. Like, just read that paragraph, see where you relate to it, and then kind of be like, hey, this is the one thing I saw. And even if it's something like you think you want to work for that company but you disagree with their profile, I saw this in your bio and I really don't think that like that's the vibe your store gives off. Why do you like, it doesn't always have to be positive about the business, but show that you were interested.
That's right.
Beyond just like, oh, I saw Tiger post a photo from here or something like that. Like, I don't care what you saw on Instagram. I want to know like what your perspective of the space is, if you're interested in interning here or learning.
Yeah. So I guess what you're saying is, hey guys, you guys heard what Harrison is telling you to do is to pull up. That's what he's telling you to do.
Research.
Yeah, pull up and do the research. I mean, look, guys, like, look at where Harrison is and what he's doing. And even myself, like, I used to work at ESPN. Like, I could have just been content and be like, look, I'm working at ESPN radio. I have my own podcast, doing all that. But I knew that I wanted more, so I decided to sign up for sneaker school. Because I'm like, look, I can get this information and actually materialize this. I'm going for it. There's no looking back. But once you take the course too, like, you do have to put your boots on the ground, right? Like, you got to put your boots on the ground. You got to use the information and the lessons. That's what's really dope about the program, is because literally everything you learn, you have to do an assignment and then you got to utilize it. Like, it's just the reality of it.
And I think like you learn so much in the course, because like I took it 2 years ago, right? I had already owned my store for 5 years. And so
Mhm.
people might be like, why would you sign up for this course if high schoolers can sign up for it? Because the industry is vast. And that's what you're going to learn in the course. Like there's so many different avenues that you can go.
Yeah.
I owned an incredible boutique in a small market. We were tier one, did releases, all that kind of stuff, but mostly focused on independent and consignment of local goods.
Yeah.
Now I'm in New York working at one of the largest consigners in the world doing private client.
Yep.
To make that jump, it's like I'm jumping into a new industry, even though I have all the connections and I know how the industry works from my level. I was at like $1 million level. Now I'm at a company that's worth 400 million. It's good to learn from the people in the industry. And I knew I wanted to work here, and the owner teaches 2 or 3 of the lessons, so why not do my background work and, figure out how the industry functions in this realm? Because people will learn that too once you get into the industry. Nike and Adidas and big box stores, that's one thing over here. Independent boutique is here. We're worlds apart, selling the same kind of thing, but we operate completely differently. So.
Yeah. Can you touch a little bit about that? Because I think that a lot of people confuse that or don't know that it's not the same thing whatsoever. Like, you know what I mean? Like the culture is different. The whole running of the business is different. Like literally, like with the boutique, you're in the grind. Like you're in the grind. If you don't do the work, there is no passing it off to somebody else to, knock it out for you. Like you gotta meet the goals. You know what I mean?
Well, and if you're gonna work at one of the bigger stores, even if you're a decision maker, most likely you're reacting and acting on things that you're getting within 2 weeks. So it's like a very small microcosm of high flow product. A lot of people don't know, but the actual fashion timeline for sneakers is 9 months. So I would go to trade shows and order 9 months out.
Yeah.
And so you have to plan your footwear and apparel and what you're going to steer your customers towards and what you're going to decide the trends for your city are at least 9 months early. And that's like, and you have to get the accounts. You don't get to just order from any brand that you want. And that's like definitely like a nugget that I think I wasn't totally aware of before opening the store. And I think a lot of people in this day and age, especially because resale is a huge thing now,
Mm-hmm.
Adidas and Nike haven't opened new boutique accounts for almost 12 years. And a lot of people don't understand that. So there's a lot of grandfathered contracts that are passed down.
Yep.
But what Nike and Adidas are doing now is, more doors, less accounts. So they're helping finance the expansion of a Kith or like the new Bodega location or expanding DTLRs and like the new Foot Locker stores where they have like the whole Jordan setups where you can like scan. That's what the bigger brands are financing right now. So they can have less accounts that they're dealing with, but more, more communities. They're not opening boutiques. So for me, like we got to $1 million store without ever selling Nike or Adidas, which is crazy. So it was like the New Balance, the Puma, Asics, Saucony, Atonic, Clearweather.
And there's so much room. Look, there's so much room for those. And I think that a lot of times, due to the hype and everything, and people not doing their research, they just think it just stops at Nike and Adidas.
Yeah.
Now, for a lot of sneaker aficionados, when you do your research, watch documentaries, take the course, you will learn that there's so much more out there. I mean, look, you named a whole bunch of them, you know what I'm saying? But there's New Balance, there's Diodora, there's Saucony, there's, Asics, you know what I mean?
And people are excited for small business. If you have a plan and you can tell them how it's going to be good for their brand to be in your store or in your city. Like we had this brand called Nat2 from Germany. We were their first account in the US. They're a 90-year-old brand and they develop textiles and then like they sell them to the bigger brands. So they get their money off of that. But we're the first people to carry their shoes in the country. And like, I don't remember those like pearlescent Super Bowl Nikes that they did like 8-9 years ago. Like those were a Nat2 fabric that then they bought, and then we had this company called Yours out of Australia that handmade shoes. They only make 250 pairs of each colorway, So we got those in, and like the Ravens players were all over them because we were the only store in North America that carried them. Like there's brands around the world that are interested and of quality and fashionable.
Yeah.
Like, if you have your game tight and can write a good email, are down to work.
Yeah. And yeah, because I mean, that just talks about how, you know, like the sneaker game is growing, you know. I mean, I look at Greg's brand, you know, even with people customizing and everything, like doing one-of-ones, limited pairs and everything. I mean, look, the game is expanding like crazy. I want to ask a question too, and it kind of regards to the community a little bit, and people trying to do their own thing. Like with people being in a community and starting their own sneaker brand, what would be your advice to that?
Are you saying they're starting like their complete own namesake line?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
How do they get their brand in stores, or, you know?
Definitely. That is a tough hurdle that requires a lot of capital. So like definitely people need to understand that. I know a lot of people use Alive shoes. Like I've designed shoes on there before. You know, those kind of, you just drop your designs in, and if enough are ordered, they get produced. But if you're gonna own your own lasts, like those lasts can cost $5,000 to $50,000 per size if you want to use one that no one else has access to. Otherwise, you're just renting them. And so to make 100 pairs of shoes can be $100,000 for your first run because you're buying all those lasts and buying all those things. So it is definitely expensive. I would steer them more towards the route of finding a Clearweather or, you know, like North Face or someone that has a more independent line of shoes, become a designer on that, and then jump to your own brand once you have the industry connections on your back. Because if you go in cold, you're going to pay for all that up front.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Self-funded, you know.
Quickly, to everyone in the chat, like this is live. Put your questions in the Q&A, not the chat box, and then we'll get to them in the last 15 minutes.
Yep, we got y'all. Please bring the questions in. I'm just trying to get as much information from Harrison for you guys. I did see some questions. So like I said, Harrison is, you know, he owned a sneaker boutique for 6 years, correct?
Yeah.
6 years. So he has that experience, and he has the finance experience, and now he's at Stadium Goods. And can you talk about your position at Stadium Goods a bit, if you can, with us?
I can touch like slightly on it. So it's a new program that we just launched this year, which is a little tough during COVID, but it's basically taking our higher end customers at this point, and then it will expand. Right now we only have 4 employees on the staff, so it will expand over the next year. But doing a full lifestyle experience. So it's not just about buying the sneaker, it's about sourcing the sneakers for them. It's about, you know, when Travis Scott is in town, making sure that they have a VIP back door kind of to that concert so they can meet and greet before he goes on stage. You know, making sure that you get the full lifestyle of what the culture is really about. You know, we kind of found that too often resale stores are just about the hype and how much money you spent and how quickly you flip things. And for us, it's more about the, you know, slow down, have a luxury experience with it, have a story behind that shoe that you got, you know, and really return it to the culture and not just take from the culture. That's a big thing that I'm always a proponent of. Anyone that ever asks me business advice, like if you're not giving back more to the culture and you're just trying to take money, like you're not gonna last. You get sussed out. Sneaker culture is very tight-knit community. There's a very small amount of people making decisions.
Yeah.
You know, it's a very tight funnel once it gets to the top. So as soon as you're a culture vulture or taking from, you're cut and you're out, and you can be blackballed in the industry really quickly because we all know each other, you know.
Exactly. And I think too, the main thing is like we can all tell when it's not genuine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we can tell now, like there's no hiding. Like we know, like, hey, you're not really about the game and you're not really about the people in the game because you're not building the relationships that need to be built. You know what I mean? Like I think the biggest thing, or the biggest reward for me, at least in my experience, has been able to build the relationships. You know, like it's nice to get sneakers or knowing someone like, yo, I can get this, I can get that. That's cool. Or being able to spend money with a friend who may have a business, that's fine. But building those relationships is like the biggest reward, out of all of this, because I mean, essentially it's like, that's what it's all about.
Yeah. And the only way to be able to mobilize as a community is to have those connections. Like when the community needs us, sneaker stores are often the first ones to raise up and kind of, help their city, like with youth groups and those kinds of like just give backs and potlucks and all that kind of stuff, because we are the pulse of the community.
That's right. That's right. And you saying that touches back to what you said about what you and your team were able to do in Baltimore. Like what was that like, man? I couldn't only imagine like being able to just bless and help people out like that. Like,
It's an amazing experience. Like a couple of them are on this call right now, they're fully employed. Like we'll be family forever, and like that city is like, it's rough, like I make no qualms about it. Like I had 9 friends shot last year, and I'm not even from there. I was only there for like 7 years. Like it's a rough and tumble city, but we protect our own, and we, we'll always be there to support each other. And so like that's why all these music artists have come out of there and all these brands come out of there and a bunch of comedians and athletes, because the support is really there from the community. The government and the community, it's a different thing, but I mean, that's America right now, and we're all making sure that we stay on the right side of it.
That's right. That's right. No, that's big facts. I think I'm just gonna ask, one more question from our side, and then we can get to the questions of everybody else. I think it's a 2-part. I think I would ask, Will, with your experience with sneaker school, what could you speak about, sneaker school, how it helped you while you were, running your boutique and everything, and how it just kind of, got you where you're at now, and in the hard work and experience that you've had. But then also too, what do you think the sneaker industry, is heading to right now, especially with the whole pandemic and everything? I think it kind of changed the game. So I would love for you to answer those 2 questions.
100%. So like from my point of view, sneaker school helped me expose myself to the larger industry, because I was so focused on boutique for so long that you do get out of those bigger channels. And like, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do when I moved up to New York, but I knew it was time for me to do my next step. My store did do really well. I had opened it when I was 23. And so by the time I started turning 30, I was like, I'm ready for the next step. So that's why I closed and decided to move up to the city. And I had a bunch of connections here in the industry, but I had them from the buying perspective or from attending events. And like, I didn't know if I wanted to be on the finance side of sneakers again, or if I wanted to work in a design firm with people and like, do color sourcing, or, if I wanted to go manage, like a Kith or something like that, or what part of the industry I really saw myself fitting into in a larger sense. Because as a business owner, you touch on all of that every day, so sneaker school really helped me like separate the different parts of the industry again and really like focus on, what am I going to be interested in? And for me, it's customer experience. I want to be around people telling the story of why that sneaker was made, where it was coming from. And, sneaker school helped me kind of touch back in on that. And I don't know, where do you see the industry going right now? What is your view from your side of the country?
I think it's open season. Honestly, I think it's room for a lot of opportunity. I know some people would say that the whole brick and mortar game and everything is kind of dead and all of that, but I don't think so though. I think it's maybe the way you approach it, and goes back to the community and how you're serving your community.
Yeah.
I think go ahead.
100%. Like, exactly what I was going to say. Like, boutiques are not dead, but you have to watch out in this industry, because Foot Locker's figuring out how to create those power stores in cities like New York and Chicago and Detroit and LA, and they are true community centers. So those bigger brands have had time to sit down and figure out how do they take that community and really infuse it into what they're doing, which is beautiful, and it's going to give back a lot. But it creates direct competition now for boutiques. And like, One thing that always set me apart, and like we didn't really touch on this, but when I'd originally, like we had always worked and built the brands of all those young designers, right?
Mm-hmm.
As all of them came in there, and like I realized people needed a place to sit, they needed free internet, they needed, you know, just a place to like chill out and be safe. Like that's why I chose Mount Vernon in Baltimore. No one owned it. Like there was no particular gang there. There was no level of money you had to have or education. Like everyone felt comfortable there. You could walk, take the bike, drive, do all those things. So it was a safe haven within the city. I realized people needed those spaces within the greater community as well. So like I built a stage in the store and a 2-person DJ booth so that the community could come in and host events in a safe place that wasn't completely involved with nightlife and drinking. And they could, you know, we had concerts, movie screenings, art showings. We had it, and we gave people a safe space for that culture. And by the last year and a half that we were open, we were so much more about the community events, and then we sold stuff, but we sold more than we had ever sold because we were so not focused on it.
That's right.
I think that's where boutiques have to go, like, because you can't compete with the amount of shoes that Foot Locker is going to come out with. You can't. So if you can give an experience that they truly cannot dial into, you'll be successful.
And I think one big word there is service. You know, like I remember being a kid and going into, you know, my mom taking me to the sneaker store, or my dad, and being able to sit down and like the person who's selling me the shoes, asking me questions, talking to me, even just something as simple as like, yo, let me measure your foot, make sure you get the right size, or let me put your shoe on for you. Like I remember those things. I'm like, man, there's no service like that anymore. Or just like conversation, wanting to get to know the person that lives in that community that's shopping with you. I think those things do go a long way.
100%. And I think on that respect level, as a boutique, you're not as driven by the numbers. So like if you're at a Foot Locker or something like that, like it's about the average spend per customer and the foot traffic. When you're in a boutique, you have more time with people. Like we had a rewards program, and like my staff will tell you, and we always laugh about it, like we had homeless people in our rewards program because they would come buy a pair of shoes once a year, and we wanted them to be remembered. You know, and we also had Ravens players and all those kinds of, and everyone in between. But in a boutique environment, you have the ability to respect everyone at the same level that you don't get in a mall store. So I think that's like the difference maker as well as far as community.
Facts, man. Harrison, dude, you're like you're full of gems, bro. You're so full of gems. It sucks that this is just an hour, but I'm gonna dive in these questions too. One really good one that off the tops I saw is like, you know, somebody said, I don't have a background in business. What's the best place to learn about writing business plans?
I'm going in your neighborhood, like wherever you plan on opening, there's going to be a business council and like a SPCA sort of thing, like that all the businesses are a member of, like everyone pays dues for like marketing and cleaning, whatever neighborhood that is. They will be able to connect you with someone that through the city will provide you free business plan advice. It's like a nationwide program, like every city has it. So you just have to kind of get plugged into whatever business network is in your neighborhood. But like when you walk around shops, there should be little stickers in the corner that says like, we're a part of like the Mount Vernon Business Association or something like that. That association should be able to direct you to who in your community can help you for free.
Another one was, what are the 5 most important things you did to grow and expand your boutique?
But honestly, a lot of it came from privilege, and like I acknowledge that every day of my life. Like I was in a very special situation where I was able to self-fund the first round of my business, and then I also never had to pay myself. So I reinvested everything back into the business, which was amazing. That's not to say the business didn't pay for a lot, and that's something to learn. Like learn taxes. Like my car was a write-off. You know, I had a Hummer for 3 years with like a logo on it. You know, and then like all my phones were a write-off. All my travel was a write-off because I was going to do business. So like the business did pay for a lot, but I never wrote myself a paycheck, which is an immense privilege. So I was able to reinvest consistently. Take advantage of community colleges and high schools around you, especially if you're a young person opening a business. There are probably like at-risk youth that are amazing that just don't focus at school, and they'll have some sort of high school program where they intern for you once a week. It's part of their grades. They have to like raise their grades while they're still at school. Like we had a great program like that. that we got some of our best employees out of. And all community colleges, like their art departments and stuff like that aren't that large. So a lot of them have to go actually design logos and things for local businesses to get credit. So take advantage of the free work that's out there, you know.
No,
And then make sure you remember those people, thank those people, and when you have the chance, then pay them for something else.
That's right. That's right. This is a good one too. What kind of events would you attend to connect with other people and make a face for your business?
Absolutely everything. I didn't care how gutter it was. I didn't care how posh it was. Like, we did nightclubs, we did basement parties, we did Four Seasons events. Make sure you get to know your hotel concierges, because they will tell you what events are coming up. Make sure if you go to a nice event, you meet the event producer, and make sure you have a card on you, something that they can help like remember you. No one's gonna remember the Instagram that you put into their phone. Like, we all love it, but we'll get 30 to 50 new followers that night, and like, it's gonna be hard for us to track you down again. Try to get like a signature. My signature has always been my hair, because it's like my favorite thing, and like, it made me look like Jeremy Scott at a time that he was really big, which is huge. So everyone loved that. But, try to, especially if you're in this industry, it's fashion. So have a signature look, have a signature feel, have your fashion say something about you that people remember.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see here. So would you recommend the Complex Sneaker Essentials program if I want to get into the fashion merchandising and buying in the sneaker and streetwear industry? So I think we can both answer that.
Yeah.
That is a yes. That is a big yes, because you learn about all of that. The program pretty much gives you lessons and everything. It opens the doors and your eyes and everything about the industry. You will find out about positions in the industry that you didn't know existed. Something about like people who just work on colors on sneakers. There's somebody in Nike who's just literally, that's all they work on is just colors. There are people who just work on laces. There's people who are just working on, designing. People who just work with materials. People who are going to work on the storytelling of the shoe, which I'm really passionate about, is the marketing side of things. I mean, there's so many things that you're going to learn in this program is going to just open the door for you to see and want to explore more.
100%. And I think like all of those positions are going to look slightly different depending on what company you apply to do the merchandising at.
Yep.
Whether you're in store, whether you're traveling, whether you're there's online merchandisers as well, which I don't think people understand, but there's website merchandisers. So there's definitely like a lot to that part of the industry, and merchandisers that only work on photo shoots, and it's more of a styling position. So there's definitely, you'll learn all those different traits that you can have.
Yeah. Somebody asked, can you give some examples of giving back to the culture?
In what capacity?
It was very open-ended, but I can give you some examples of giving back to the culture. Volunteer your time. If you want to volunteer your time at your local Boys and Girls Club, the YMCA, giving back to the youth, whatever events that are going on in your city, give back to your city, give back to your community. I mean, you guys heard Harrison saying like what he did was he had a space, he had a platform, so he opened up his doors for people to be able to feel safe in his store, where they could express themselves, they could build relationships, and he showed his face everywhere. Like, honestly, there's so many ways that you could give back. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I guess, Harrison, you could expound more on that.
100%. I mean, the best way to give back is take whatever skills that you have that you can offer to other people. So like I was able to help with the business advice and helping people create self-sustaining businesses and connect them to the right people to grow what their hopes and dreams were outside, as well as then providing like safe cultural space for people to perform in and, meet each other and really network within the industry and provide a consistent space where people could do so.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the big aspect too that I want to touch on is like with you being from a, the finances background, like learn that part too. Like that
Yeah,
is really, really important.
crucial.
Like the sneaker industry is really cool and everything, but you definitely want to have skills that could take you anywhere to do anything. And learning finances is like top. Like you gotta learn how to count your money, how to do your taxes, and how to be able to support yourself and your community. Um, Let me see. There's another question here. What is the biggest mistake you made during being a business owner?
Ooh. Probably the biggest mistakes were buying into brands that didn't believe in themselves. I think business-wise and growth-wise, we did really well, but sometimes when you're an independent store and you don't have access to every brand you want, you'll try to go after like a lookalike brand, and it ends up just completely flopping because by the time it delivers, that brand is actually shut down, and then you're stuck with all this merchandise, and there's not a really functional way to move it because there just is no life behind it. Those would be kind of like the biggest mistakes in general, I think.
Yeah, yeah. I think for me was rushing to start without knowing the vision. That was a mistake that I made in the beginning. But I'm grateful that I was able to just it was very early to where I was able to scratch and just kind of restart
100%.
everything. But you know what? I think I'm gonna ask a question since it's time for us to kind of wrap it up. Your top 5 sneakers of all time. Your top 5, and then I'll give you my top 5.
Stan Smiths,
Okay.
the JS1s, like the original Jeremy Scott wings.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard. There's so
Do you
many.
want to do? Let's do 3. Let's do 3 because 5 is a lot. It's kind of a lot, especially if you've
I
been
like
in it for a long
collected
time.
so many. I have a special place in my heart for Clearweather. Those brothers were always really good to my store. They were the original designers of like the Super Sky Top and then also the band's Mid. And they own their
Okay.
own business now. They started like 6 years ago called Clearweather. So that would like round out my top 3. Like I love everything that they've done and I have a true like emotional connection to it.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
about you?
Mine would be definitely the black cement threes. Like it's just black cement threes. The Air Force One, that's just so sentimental to me because my mom worked overtime for me to have my first pair. I remember exactly like what all went down with that.
You the white
And
Air
then
Force ones?
you said what?
The white Air Force ones?
Oh, of course. We don't wear the all black ones, and we gotta keep the all white ones clean at all times. So yeah, Air Force Ones, the cement threes, and then I would have to say that my next one would have to be 94 Barclays.
Okay.
Yeah, the 94 Barclays are insane. Like I remember when I had a chance to get a pair I was in I think it was like 7th grade, but for some reason I passed on them and got a pair of Adidas. I don't know why, but
Disappointed ever.
yeah, it's just one of those things where I'm just like, dang, I should have. Still to this day, I kick myself in the butt for not
These
getting
are
it.
super classic. I think that's always the thing I look for, like my favorites are like the things that change the industry. Like
Yeah.
obviously you can't wear Jeremy Scott's every day, but
Mm.
that really ushered in an era of like changing the actual shape of shoes. And like I don't think we would tolerate Kanye's insanity right now if there weren't
Mhm.
people like Jeremy Scott and Pharrell and like those collaborations that changed what could be attached to a shoe or colorways and like broke outside the basketball norm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think people right now, they pull it off with the basketball sneakers. They pull them off in the summer, and then we don't wear them with jeans anymore. So, but anyway, Harrison, bro, this was amazing. Thank you so much for just like making yourself available to not just me, but just everybody in here. you know, dropping gems. Shout out to the whole Yellow Brick team, the whole Yellow Brick
Thank
staff
you.
there, Sneaker School, Complex, everybody for providing us a platform to be able to just kind of do what we do. So before we get off, Harrison, can you give them your IG info so people can follow you?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's sneakers, coffee, champagne, my three favorite things. And you can follow me there. If you're out in Chicago, we're opening a new store there. It'll be open to the public on the 1st. So I believe it'll be open at 11. I know they're dropping like 200 pairs of Jordans and Yeezys at retail for the
Pull
first
up.
store, which is going
Bet,
to be
yep. Y'all better
amazing.
pull up.
Yeah, so that's going to be happening on the 1st, which is dope. But yeah, if anyone has any questions, for sure, like just hit me up on the DM. Once I get through the Chicago opening, then I'll be able to answer them a little bit tap further.
Yeah, exactly. Mine is at Denis. So Denis is with one N and then underscore Boateng. Same thing, guys. Just if you follow me, feel free to DM me, ask me any questions. If I don't get to you right away, I definitely will get back to you.
Can you really quickly for the people tell them what you do for the community?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I have a company called a Bet, which stands for a Better Expression Through, and is focused on Black and Brown youth. You know what I mean? So this is one of those things that we work with. I used to work at the Y with a lot of young people. So just giving back to the community or at my church, just volunteering with you know, the youth program there. I mean, anything that the kids are involved in, we just try to support them, but we also try to push the whole thing of them finding their own creativity and whatever gifting that they have. So that's what we do. You know what I mean? We're always spreading love and messages, but also to spreading awareness about what a lot of Black and Brown youth are going through. So we try to collaborate with different companies and build tools for these kids to overcome things that they're going through in their community. So that's
I'm excited to watch that grow.
yeah, for sure. Well, Harrison, thank you so much. Everybody in here, thank y'all. Make sure y'all go follow Harrison. Like you said, if y'all in Chicago, pull up, get your J's, get your Yeezys while you can and everything. And me too, man. I'm open. Hit us up. If you're curious about Sneaker School program, look, use that curiosity and sign up and stop waiting. Just jump, go for it, and utilize it to get you where you want to get to. All right. There's a Facebook group, support group for everybody that's in the group. So you're able to just kind of network with people, build a community there, meet up with people in your city, you know, that could help you in your assignments, so on and so forth. So yeah, guys, take advantage of this, and it's a real thing. It's legit. All right. So yep, that is it. Thank you, guys.
Now,